It's a great honor to be here with you all tonight. And like all of you, I'm sure, my body and soul, in that metaphorical sense at the moment, are with all the Palestinians everywhere. Whether Hamas or PLO or of any other faction or any group, or whether in prison as prisoners. And we can't forget one of the most eloquent and thoughtful voices amongst the Palestinians, Barghouti. I'm not sure if I can, but I can certainly speak closer to the mic, which may be helpful, I hope. Anyway, today I read a report in the New York Times that insists that Israeli citizens are unanimous in support of the war. And that quote, a tiny little sentence in the middle of the whole horrifying article, was as follows, quote, "The largest demonstration against the war so far, with some 6,000 participants, was organized by an Arab political party. On January the 3rd, Saturday, January the 3rd, on the same day that there were demonstrations in the United States, in London, in Europe, and in many other countries, there was a demonstration in Tel Aviv of 10,000. And it was, amongst other very courageous groups, the lead organizing group was Gush Shalom, Uri Avnery and Rachel Avnery's. And they also called on all their fellow Israeli Jewish citizens to join the Arab citizens who were out in 100,000 in Sachin near Galilee. The banners, the main slogans of the march on January the 3rd in Tel Aviv were stop the killing, stop the siege, stop the occupation. So one thing, and I wouldn't know about a lot of this, even though I'm in email correspondence, certainly with a number of Palestinians, but I wouldn't know under the present circumstances where not only have cement walls gone up, but media walls and internet walls, and we're getting fragmented in that objective sense of the term. But you can write down, if you haven't already, and I expect most of you have, info@gush-shalom.org. And on that, you can read Uri Avnery's articles, which are not published in Haaretz, but Gush Shalom publish a small advertisement in Haaretz. And indeed, as Uri Avnery explains when you go on to one of his latest articles, even Haaretz has virtually blanked out, not entirely, but virtually blanked out, what is happening in Gaza, but also what is the Israeli Jewish and Israeli Arab opposition doing. And I think that is the most important of all if we're looking to what we can do and what we can support, along with the other proposals that have been made. I'm sure you have read Professor Rashid Khalidi's op-ed article in the New York Times, and if you haven't, of course you can go online or find a friend who's an online wizard, which I'm certainly not, but you need to know every word of that article. And before I read you a few paragraphs from a recent article by Uri Avneri, which produced some thoughts in me, I'd like to share with you some thoughts and reflections about a certain kind of proportionality. Can you hear me now? Thank you. Well, there was a siege of Leningrad in the Soviet Union during World War II. In the Russian language, it's called the Leningrad blockade. It began on September the 8th, 1941, and ended on January the 27th in 1944, approximately 900 days, and approximately 632,000 citizens were killed by bombs and shells and hunger and cold and lack of medication. And a great Russian Jewish writer, Peretz, was allowed by Stalin, indeed ordered by Stalin, to come to London to fundraise for medical aid. And my father took part in some performances that raised money. And when Peretz returned to the Soviet Union, he was killed, along with most of those Jewish partisans who fought the Nazis. And I had the privilege of meeting some of the survivors of that war, and some of them Jewish, but not many. Then there was the siege of Sarajevo, the capital of Bosnia-Herzegovina, which began on the 5th of April, 1992, and ended officially on February the 29th, 1996. That was 5 years long. And I refer to that because there was a deadly blockade. And the Milosevic regime in Belgrade did a deal with Gazprom and the government in Russia, and all the gas was cut off to Sarajevo. This is not news to you, of course. Water, freezing, no water, freezing hospitals, lacking electricity, medications, food, and water. And like Chris Hedges, I was there during the siege in Sarajevo on a whole number of occasions during what was called the siege, but was both a blockade and a war. And I want to remind those who don't know that the Jewish center in Sarajevo was a lifeline to the citizens who could get out before everything was blocked, and who helped distribute food. And I found that in Kosovo also, in the refugee camps. And I found, of course, that as I had expected, I could work with those who said, we're not going to discuss the Palestinians, but yes, if you want to help the Albanians in Kosovo, of course, we can join together on that. And I said, yes, we'll join together on that, and we did. Because I'd been in Kosovo and had friends killed, their throats cut and so on in Kosovo, by Milosevic's paramilitary and by his army. Now, there was about 10,000 citizens of Sarajevo were killed over the course of just on 5 years.